Lee Sung-kook was surprised by the system message and muttered, "Another new scenario? It certainly wasn't a good thing." Another scenario appeared before we complete the clear conditions of the existing scenario. I opened up the new scenario as soon as it arrived. Main scenario number 4, the King's qualifications. Category, Main. Difficulty, A. Clear conditions. Occupy the absolute throne located at Gwanghwamun. Time limit, 8 hours. Compensation, 10,000 coins. This scenario can only be challenged by those who have completed the hidden scenario, King's Road. The absolute king has absolute commands over all the other kings. There are additional special clear conditions for this scenario. The situation wasn't good. Our group hadn't been able to take the target of the struggle for flags yet. The burden had doubled. I must complete the scenario related to the throne while taking down the Tyrant King and occupying Changsin Station. The intermediate Dokubi said, "Look at your confused faces. Please don't worry too much. The scenario will proceed slowly." Gwanghwamun was still, despite everyone being in a state of agitation. It was natural. The surviving kings knew how important it was to listen to the Dokubi. "As you have guessed, the 4th main scenario is to be the only king to sit on the throne. Of course, being a king doesn't mean that everyone can sit on the throne. Only a person who has provided his or her qualifications can sit here." The intermediate Dokubi said with a bad laugh. "Then I will reveal the first qualification." King's qualification. 1. The owner of the throne should be braver than anyone else. The absolute throne never wants a weak king. To challenge the throne, you must own at least a black flag. Additional qualifications will be released after a while. A black flag. It was disgusting from the very beginning. "The moment was given. Now make a fun story." The intermediate Dokubi disappeared, and Yu-sung made an anxious expression. "If it's a black flag, you need to occupy 20 stations?" That's right. Our group had a brown flag. It was a flag that could be obtained after occupying 10 stations. "What do we do? In order to create a black flag, we need 10 more stations. If there are any vacant stations nearby..." This is a condition that appeared because there are no empty stations. Huh? As far as I knew, no king had achieved the black flag at this point. Did you forget? There's only one method to change the color of a flag. The achievement value of a flag went up when taking over a station. However, there was a way to get achievement values faster. It was to take the flag of another representative. Right now, there are a bunch of kings with flags in Gwanghwamun. I calmed down the party members. "Don't worry, this wasn't expected. We will proceed as planned." I said this, but it wouldn't be easy. There were clouds of war hanging over Gwanghwamun. There was a breathless tension just before the storm blew. The sounds of weapons being pulled out and the organization of battle lines could be heard. People would soon start moving. Those competing for a promotion would now kill each other with real swords. Those who wanted a wider territory would take each other's flags to occupy more stations, kill each other and get better items. It was in order to survive. Yu-sung watched the buildings around them and muttered in a surreal tone, "Scary. Is this really South Korea?" "It is South Korea. It's still South Korea." "Representative Nim, aren't you scared?" "I'm afraid." It wasn't a lie. I was obviously scared. To be honest, I often felt that way. Even if I read ways of survival, I was still a regular office worker. I often wondered if I could survive. Of course, my worries didn't last long. It was because it was useless to think about it. It was the same in any world. Kim Duksha, who worked at Minosoft, was now Kim Duksha, who lived in a world of ways of survival. Death would come whether I wanted it or not. The most important thing now was... At least, I feel like I'm living right now. The exclusive skill, 4th wall, is activated. I suddenly turned around and saw Lee Sung-kook looking at me with reverent eyes. When I look at Representative Nim... Attack! Someone's shout was heard before Lee Sung-kook's words were over. 300 meters away, there was a king who started marching north. He was a king with a brown flag like me. I couldn't see his face because he was too far away, but he was probably the king of a small district. And almost at the same time, the warlords hiding in Gwanghwamun started to appear. They were each armed with excellent self-defense equipment. The most prominent one was a man wearing a kilt in splendid colors. I could tell who he was without looking. Our target, the Tyrant King and the ruler of Dongwon-gu and Songbok-gu. The vibe he gave off was new. The Tyrant King who had the largest force among Seoul's 7 kings. Now that he moved, the first apostle and the kings of the 3 kingdoms would act. Maybe most of them will go after the 4-yin demonic beheading sword. In fact, the direction of the king's march was the Northern Palace Museum, where the 4-yin demonic beheading sword was located. I didn't see him, but the plagiarists would also be moving to that side. Some forces ignored any damage and were running towards the museum. It was understandable. Since the qualification of the absolute king wasn't clear yet, they thought it would be more advantageous to obtain a good item. If the item was the 4-yin demonic beheading sword, they could fill in the lacking achievement points of their flag at once. Lee Sung-kook anxiously asked, "Shouldn't we go? The 4-yin demonic beheading sword is a pretty good item." We will just be defeated if we go. We didn't have a lot of people. Moreover, there were many high-level sponsors among them. Go to the west. I moved while leading the party. All the kings were heading for the Northern Palace Museum, so the west was relatively lacking. It was a historic Hwanghomun, so there were museums all over the place. Korean Financial History Museum, Korean National Police Heritage Museum. Yusung asked, "We aren't going to these places? We should avoid the modern and contemporary exhibits. An old relic was better." Of course, the relic being simply old wasn't enough. The hoe used by farmers in the Iron Age was also such an item, but it was only F grade. The important thing was to have a relationship with a famous person or a narrative. Let's go here. The place we stopped was the Seoul History Museum. A light flashed in Yusang's eyes. "What are we looking for here?" "We must find the Gampong Gui. It's a relic of the Joseon dynasty that resembles a disc, but I don't know what floor it's on." "Okay, I'll try and find it." We had to find it quickly, so let's scatter. "Gil-young, you move with Sangoi Nuna. And Lee Sung-kuk-shi?" As I was speaking, something sharp flew behind me. I reflexively crouched down, pulling the party members with me. The exterior wall of the building was pierced by an arrow. There was a trace of magic power on the shaft. I got goosebumps. Strong magic arrow. This person had learned their archery skill properly. Who was it? The unexpected ambush complicated my thoughts. Was there someone who read the movements of my party? "Everybody go inside! Quickly!" Several more arrows flew. Blade of Faith is activated. I swung my sword and struck the flying arrows. Fortunately, the amount of magic power wasn't high, so they weren't difficult to block. The problem was the number. One arrow flew out and pierced my thigh. I quickly retreated and hid behind cover. "Haha, where's the novice king wandering to?" A voice echoed through the area. A group of men armed with bows and swords appeared 500 meters away. Their flag couldn't be seen. In other words, they were sent out as a detached force. Some kings were smarter than I thought. Was he going to eat up the items while taking away the flags of smaller kings? The exclusive skill, Character List, is activated. I used the skill on the person in the lead. Character information. Name: Chu Wangin. Age: 33 years old. Constellation support: the last hero of Hwang Sang-bul. Private attribute: minor actor, general. Exclusive skills: weapons training level 4. Acting level 1. Weak investigation level 1. Stigma: Bakja Kendo level 4. Prepared to fight to the death for the country level 2. Detached force management level 3. Overall stats: physique level 19. Strength level 19. Agility level 21. Magic power level 15. Overall evaluation is a case where even a nobody can grow if he meets excellent sponsor. Due to a high degree of sympathy with the sponsor, the strength of his stigma is significant. Damn, a tiger had come. I didn't expect to meet Hwang Sang-bul's master here. Those with the actor attributes tended to cling to these types of constellations. "If you know honor as a king, surrender your flag. Then your group members won't lose their lives." The poor dramatic tone told me while he was only a minor actor. The last hero Hwang Sang-bul was attached to such a person. It seemed that bad luck with partners even applied to constellations. But this was difficult. The level of the stigmas, Bakja Kendo, and detached force management was too high. Considering the number of people, it would be hard to handle all of them without raising my overall stats. Coins possessed: 68,150. Should I use my coins here? However, the difficulty of the last phase of the fourth scenario would increase sharply if I used my coins to raise my stats here. It would disturb my whole plan. If I closed my eyes and used around 20,000 coins. "Isn't it embarrassing for you to persecute the king of a weak nation using the name of the three kingdoms?" I looked around as soon as I heard a voice and saw a familiar person approaching. Chu Wangin made a fierce expression. "What is the queen doing here?" "Your crude tone is just as expected for the master of a ruined kingdom." The woman shot back with a smug expression. "King of Beauty, Min Ji-won." Why did this woman appear here? Surely she hadn't followed me. No, there was no way. Min Ji-won's eyes glanced at me. "The character, Min Ji-won, shows a weak liking towards you." "Really?" "Shut up! The cowardly Scylla blood now claims to be the ruler of the three kingdoms. I won't recognize a girl like you as king." Chu Wangin's roar of anger burst from his body. He might be a minor actor without much skills, but his voice was very loud. By the way, it was interesting. Gyeobak and Queen Jeongseong were born in different eras, but they can now face each other like this after becoming constellations. I asked Min Ji-won, "Why are you helping me?" "Scylla doesn't ignore weak countries." "It's Scylla who destroyed Gaia." "Did you also have a first-grade degree in Korean history?" Any high school graduate would know this much. Min Ji-won's expression became slightly gloomy. "I don't know because I didn't go to high school." It was natural. Min Ji-won had been an actor since her teens. She became an actress at an early age and learned things other than history. "Your words are correct. I can't obtain people with money. I'm repaying the debt caused by my rudeness. That's it. I knew Min Ji-won's history as an actress and could feel the sincerity in her words. It was still surprising. She was an incarnation with a high pride, so I didn't think she would bow before me like this. Gyebok's incarnation laughed at our conversation. A king is swayed by personal manners? That's why a chick like you, Min Ji-won's captain, came forward on behalf of the Hwarang. Rude. How can a man like you be the king of a country? Gyebok's eyes were drawn to the Hwarang. Hwarang. Interesting. Did you sign with that constellation? The Hwarang captain turned red at the words. It reminded me that Hwarang's captain sponsor was Gwachang. Do you want your neck to be cut like your sponsor? In the Battle of Hwangsangbul, Gwachang died from Gyebok cutting his throat. Shut up! Thank you for coming to help, but the relationship between constellations was the worst. This was particularly bad due to their high levels of sympathy. There was a hierarchy among the constellations due to the history of their past lives. A person couldn't go against their king, and the enemy was determined according to historical records. For example, Kuroshima Michifusa of Japan could never beat the Duke of Loyalty in warfare. It was just like Gwachang couldn't win against Gyebok. Min Ji-won also knew this and didn't look happy. I spoke first. Just defeat the army, or we can't win. Bakje's army had slightly more military force. Gyebok was a military commander. The more people he led, the stronger his power. Gwachang was no match for him. Then Yusanga's voice was heard. Tokushishi, I found it! I looked back and found Yusanga running with a small disc. She found it already? The relic resembling a wall clock glowed in Yusanga's hands. At this moment, I had an idea. I looked at the relic, then Min Ji-won and the incarnation of Gwachang. Then I made a decision. Perhaps I could win without using coins. Attack! The character, Chu Wangnin, has used the Stigma Detach Force Level 3. The Hwarang kept falling under the hands of the Bakje forces. Min Ji-won looked towards me with a desperate expression, and I said, I think we can win. Huh? We will recreate the Battle of Hwangsangbul. Many people knew this, but Hwangsangbul was a battle that Silla won.